She went on a Valentine's date with a man she met online. By morning, 25-year-old Mireya was gone. Police closed her case fast. No real search, no suspects, no answers. But one detail was quietly buried. The man she met had been missing for 25 years. And the last message on her phone says, "Before you listen to this story, I want you to pause for a second and ask yourself one question. What if the person you fall for isn't supposed to exist?" On Valentine's Day, 25-year-old Mireya Cole went on a date with a man she met online. He was charming, familiar, almost comforting. But by sunrise, Mireya was gone. No goodbye message. No phone activity. No CCTV footage of her leaving the restaurant. Only one detail would turn this case into one of the most disturbing mysteries ever whispered in her hometown. The man she met that night, the man who called himself Adrian Vale, was officially reported missing 25 years ago. The same day Mireya was born. Same town. Same hospital. Same hour. Investigators would later discover something even more unsettling. Every description of the missing man matched the stranger from her photos perfectly. Not older. Not changed. Exactly the same. If you think coincidences don't hide secrets, this case will challenge everything you believe about fate, identity, and how far the past can reach into the present. Stay with me until the end of this story, because what was uncovered about Mireya's last date may completely change how you see disappearance cases forever. Mireya Cole had always been careful. She didn't meet strangers easily. She shared her location with her best friend. She double-checked rides, restaurants, and profiles. But when Adrian Vale messaged her, something about his tone felt different. Unforced, patient, almost gentle. They met through a quiet dating app she barely used. No flashy photos. No wild captions. Just a simple picture of a man standing near a river, hands in his pockets, eyes steady on the camera. "You look like someone who listens," he wrote. It felt harmless. For 2 weeks, they talked every night. He never rushed her. Never asked for anything personal. Never tried to move the conversation somewhere private too fast. He spoke about books, about growing up near old neighborhoods, about how time could make places disappear even when buildings stayed. When Valentine's Day arrived, he suggested dinner. A small restaurant near the edge of town. Mireya hesitated. Something tugged at her chest, an anxiety she couldn't name. But she ignored it. Fear had cost her too many chances before. She told her friend where she was going. She charged her phone. She sent a screenshot of his profile. At 7:18 p.m., Mireya Cole walked out of her apartment smiling. At 7:42 p.m., she sent her last message. "He's already here." The restaurant was nearly empty when Mireya arrived. Soft music drifted from hidden speakers. Candlelight flickered against dark wooden walls. A hostess glanced up, then smiled. "Table for Mireya?" she asked. Mireya froze. "Yes," she said slowly. "He's already seated." Her stomach tightened. Near the far window, a man stood when he saw her. Adrian Vale. He looked exactly like his photos. Not filtered. Not posed. Not improved by good lighting. Exactly the same. Black coat. Neatly trimmed hair. Calm, unreadable eyes. "You found it," he said gently, as if they'd known each other far longer than 2 weeks. His voice was familiar in a way that unsettled her. Not comforting. Recognizing. They sat. He didn't touch his phone once. He didn't look around the room. His attention stayed fixed on her, steady and unblinking, but never intense enough to feel aggressive. "You seem nervous," he said softly. "I always am on first dates," Mireya replied, forcing a laugh. He smiled. "No," he said. "This feels different." She blinked. Different how? Adrian tilted his head slightly, studying her face like a memory trying to return. Like something that was delayed, he answered. The waiter came and went. Food arrived untouched. Minutes passed. Then Adrian asked a question that made Mireya's breath catch. Do you know what time you were born? She stared at him. Why would you ask me that? He didn't answer. He only whispered. Because I disappeared at 2:16 a.m. Mireya laughed at first. A sharp, nervous sound that escaped before she could stop it. People disappear all the time, she said. That doesn't mean anything. Adrian didn't smile back. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. You were born at 2:16 a.m., he said. The room seemed to tilt. Mireya had never posted her birth time. It wasn't in her profile. It wasn't in any message she had ever sent him. Who told you that? She whispered. Adrian's eyes softened. No one, he replied. I remember. She pushed her chair back slightly, creating space between them. You said you grew up near here, she tried. Maybe you just guessed. He shook his head. The hospital used to face the river, he said. The old entrance. The one they closed after the fire. Mireya's heart began to pound. Her mother had told her that story once. Only once. How do you know that? She asked. For the first time, Adrian looked uncertain. Because that was the last place I ever stood, he said. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. A message from her best friend. Did he show up yet? Mireya typed 3 words. Something is wrong. She never pressed send. Adrian was watching her screen. Not like a stranger. Like someone waiting for a moment to return. Mireya excused herself and walked quickly toward the restroom, her pulse hammering in her ears. Inside, she locked the door and finally sent the message. Something is wrong. I think he knows me. Her friend's reply came instantly. Leave. Right now. Mireya stared at her reflection. Her face looked pale, almost unfamiliar. She stepped back into the hallway and stopped. A small corkboard hung near the manager's desk. Old community notices. Lost pets. Local flyers. One paper, curled at the corners, caught her eye. Missing person. The photo was black and white. A younger man stood near a river, hands in his pockets. Same posture. Same eyes. Same face. Her breath vanished from her lungs. The name printed beneath the photo made her knees weaken. Adrian Vale. Missing since February 14th. 25 years ago. Mireya's fingers trembled as she reached for the paper. Please don't take that, a voice said behind her. She turned. Adrian stood at the end of the hallway. His expression wasn't angry. It was hurt. They keep putting that back up, he said quietly. Even though I came home. Home. Mireya whispered. He stepped closer. I came back for you. Her stomach dropped. For me. He nodded. Because you're the only reason I ever disappeared in the first place. Mireya's legs felt weak as she backed away from him. That doesn't make sense, she whispered. You don't even know me. Adrian stopped a few feet from her, as if he understood exactly where her fear began. I knew you before you had a name, he said quietly. The hallway lights flickered. For months before you were born, I kept dreaming about a crying baby, he continued. Always in the same room. Same narrow window. Same smell of disinfectant and rain. Mireya shook her head. You're lying. I thought so too, he said. Until the night you arrived. Her chest tightened. Adrian's voice dropped. I was a volunteer courier at the hospital. Late shift. February 14th. The maternity wing was almost empty. Mireya's pulse thundered in her ears. I heard you before anyone else did, he whispered. Your mother was alone, scared, and you weren't breathing right. Tears burned behind Mireya's eyes. That's impossible. I carried you to the nurse's desk, he said softly. I saved your life. Silence stretched between them. Then why did you disappear? She asked. Adrian looked down at his hands. Because when I turned around, someone was standing where you should have been. He lifted his eyes to hers. And they were holding you. Mireya's throat tightened. Who was holding me? She asked. Adrian's jaw slowly clenched. That's the problem, he said. No one remembers him. The hallway felt colder. I ran after them, Adrian continued. Down the maternity corridor. Past the locked ward. Past the old stairwell that led to the underground exit. Mireya's pulse thudded in her ears. But every camera in that section had been shut off, he said. Every record of my badge entry disappeared the next morning. And when I tried to report what happened, no one could find my name in the system anymore. She stared at him. You worked there. They would have records. They didn't, he replied quietly. Not after that night. Mireya's phone vibrated again. Her friend was calling. Adrian glanced at the screen. They won't help you, he said calmly. Don't say that, she snapped. He exhaled slowly. When I described the man who took you, they told me I was exhausted. Hallucinating. They sent me home. His eyes darkened. But I didn't go home. Where did you go? Mireya whispered. Adrian hesitated. Then said something that made her blood run cold. I followed the only trail that still existed. She swallowed. Which is? You. He leaned closer. Because whatever took you that night left part of itself behind. Mireya's hand moved without thinking, to the thin white line just beneath her collarbone. She had always called it a birthmark, a shallow, curved scar, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. Adrian's eyes followed the movement. There, he whispered. Her stomach twisted. My mom said it came from a monitoring wire, Mireya said quickly. Too quickly. From when I was in an incubator. Adrian shook his head. That mark wasn't made by medical equipment. Silence pressed down on them. The restaurant noise felt distant now. Muffled. Like the world had stepped back to give them privacy. I saw the same mark on him, Adrian said. Mireya's chest tightened. The man who took you. Her breath caught. On his wrist. Same curve. Same break in the skin. Like a symbol burned instead of drawn. Mireya backed into the wall. You're trying to make me believe I'm connected to some stranger who stole me, she whispered. No, Adrian said softly. I'm trying to make you understand that you were never taken. She stared at him. He swallowed. You were returned. Her phone slipped from her hand and hit the floor. What do you mean, returned? Adrian's voice trembled for the first time. Because the baby I carried that night. He looked at her. Was not the same one I saw in his arms. Mireya couldn't breathe. That's not possible, she whispered. You're saying I'm what? Adrian didn't finish the sentence for her. Instead, he reached into his coat and pulled out a folded, yellowed document. An incident report. The paper looked old. Fragile. Like it had been opened too many times. I broke into the hospital archives 3 years ago, he said quietly. The underground storage. The place they forgot after the renovation. Mireya stared at the page. Most of the text had been blacked out. Names. Dates. Room numbers. All erased. Except one line. Infant exchange. Unconfirmed. Her hands shook as she took the paper. This doesn't prove anything, she said weakly. "It does," Adrian replied, "because there were supposed to be 2 files." She looked up. "One for you," he said, "and one for the other baby." A chill slid through her spine. "Other baby?" she whispered. Adrian nodded. "Born the same minute as you. Same delivery wing. Same nurse on record." Mireya's heart slammed. "Where is that file?" she asked. Adrian's jaw tightened. "It was deleted the night you matched with me online." Silence collapsed between them. "And that," he said softly, "is why they finally noticed you again." Mireya's hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold her phone. "Who is they?" she whispered. Adrian didn't answer. Instead, he looked past her, toward the front of the restaurant. The candles flickered. The music cut out for half a second, then returned. "They don't like when you ask that," he said quietly. A wave of dread washed over her. "You told me to come here," she said. "You picked this place." Adrian nodded. "Yes." Her chest tightened. "Why?" His eyes softened. "Because this is where it started to come apart." Mireya's phone buzzed again. A new message from her friend. "I'm calling the police. Send me your location. Right now." Mireya opened the map. Her dot pulsed. For a brief second, it showed the restaurant. Then it shifted. 3 blocks away. To a dark, empty section of the old hospital grounds. "That's not where I am," she whispered. Adrian closed his eyes. "They've already corrected it." "Corrected what?" "Your position," he said. Her breath caught. "Your story." Tears slid down her face as she typed one final message. "If anything happens to me, the man I met was reported missing 25 years ago." She pressed send. Adrian opened his eyes. "They won't find me," he said softly. "They'll only find what replaces me." Adrian stood and gently took Mireya's hand. She flinched, but didn't pull away. "I don't want you to come with me," he said quietly. Her breath trembled. "I brought you here so you could choose." "Choose what?" she whispered. He guided her toward the back exit of the restaurant. The alley outside was narrow, wet with rain and dimly lit by a single buzzing street lamp. Across the street stood the fenced-off ruins of the old maternity wing. The place he had described. The place she had never visited in her life, yet somehow recognized. "They don't erase people," Adrian said softly. "They overwrite them." Mireya's chest tightened. "They let one version exist. And when something doesn't fit, they replace it with something easier to explain." She stared at the dark building. "And you?" she whispered. "I was the error," he replied. A low hum rolled through the air. Not loud. Deep. Like machinery waking beneath the ground. Adrian released her hand. "If you cross that gate with me," he said, "you won't belong to the life you remember anymore." Tears streamed down her face. "And if I don't?" He smiled sadly. "Then I disappear properly this time." Mireya took one step forward, then stopped. Adrian nodded, as if he already understood. The hum rose. The street light flickered. And when the light steadied again, Adrian Vale was gone. What happened to Mireya Cole after that night has never been officially confirmed. Police reports list her case as a voluntary disappearance. No suspects. No evidence of a crime. No trace of the man she met. But one detail continues to disturb investigators and online researchers to this day. 3 hours after Mireya's final message was received, a new missing person poster appeared in the city database. Not for her. For a man named Adrian Vale. Listed as missing on February 14th. Again. Same name. Same description. Same photo. Except this time, the image was taken from Mireya's own phone. If this story unsettled you, imagine being the person who lived it, wondering whether your life is truly yours, or just the version that was allowed to remain. If you believe unexplained disappearances deserve more attention, share this story and keep these names alive. Subscribe for more true crime deep dives that go beyond headlines and into the shadows behind the reports. And tell me in the comments, do you think Mireya walked away from danger, or toward the only truth she was ever meant to find?